You're so hold by hope from a plastic soul. You know, you're so. Choking breeze, you know, you're so old, you'll break free when you're on your knees, you know. I was sad, you and I can break the sky. Oh, you said hate inside. Oh, you and I can break the sky. By corporate names, you know, you're so hold by hope from a plastic soul, you know, you're so.
It's not 10.
Hello,
guys-
everybody. Hey,
you
how's
notice?
it going? Eleanor always points out all the technical difficulties of this highly produced show. I mean, there is
Hey,
a
that
team.
looks so cool.
There's a
though.
team of like 700 people that make this happen. Thanks for being here, everybody.
Everyone give a round of applause to Liz for the badassery that you got to see beforehand, like
Yes.
the cool picture of Lee with the
I don't know what that is.
the
but
stripes on the
okay.
screen.
Eleanor just had a seizure, but we're going to have a hell of a show for you. We are going to get into the fact that Matt Taibbi has just revealed the incredible censorship by Twitter, which, yes, I know some of you already mentioned it. We knew Twitter was censoring things, but there's a difference between knowing, kind of feeling, I have a strong feeling A, B, and C, and fucking seeing the evidence, the proof that this is what is going on and has been going on for years.
It's like the known, unknown, known type situation.
Something like that. There's a strong Rumsfeld feel. Weirdly, I was going to say something else about a Secretary of Defense in terms of finally seeing the proof later, which is like a lot of people knew that the Gulf of Tonkin was bullshit. You know, we were firing at storm clouds was the ultimate reality. And then we put troops on the ground in Vietnam because of those storm clouds fucking offended us. And another Secretary of Defense, McNamara, Rumsfeld, I think, was under him for a while. In bed. And McNamara revealed on the Fog of War that, yes, they were storm clouds. And whoopsie, we went into Vietnam because of storm clouds. So there's a difference between kind of knowing something and then the real evidence, real hard evidence. So let's just get into. I mean, we're going to get into a bunch of other things too. The rail strike that now seems like it's not happening. The truth about Ron DeSantis that has just come out. There's a lot of good things we're covering on this episode.
Bad things, really.
No, I find them all positive. I am a big fan of workers being thwarted and people enjoying torture. In fact, torture is one of my pastimes. All right.
Or taking.
What you offering? Hey now. Okay, so this is
also the mic is over there.
Oh man. Mic's over there. Well, actually, this it might not matter because I don't think I actually had the USB mic going. Nope.
Y'all, we are on top of it. Okay.
There we go. You would have heard the mic over there had I had the right mic plugged in and not in the right spot. All right. See, sometimes you noticing or commenting on how terrible we're doing here is useful.
I didn't say it was terrible.
You said the mic's over there.
I noticed a geographical location and commented on it.
Well done.
Thank you.
All right. So this is from Matt Taibbi. Matt Taibbi, excellent journalist. I've been, I interviewed him on Redacted tonight, but I've been covering various stories that he's put out for years. His book, The Divide and Griftopia, are epic, to use the parlance of our time. And this is his latest investigation. He has the documents, as Alex Jones would say. He actually has the internal emails from Twitter executives and other higher ups at Twitter, and he's revealing what went down with the Hunter Biden laptop story. You will remember that Hunter Biden's laptop he left it at a store or something. Then it got given to the Republican Party. They were going to use that as their September, October surprise, where you upend all of the election polls by revealing something. And so they put out various things from his laptop. Now, many of the things, as I said at the time, many of the things don't involve Joe Biden. So in terms of Hunter Biden's a crackhead, Hunter Biden sleeps with prostitutes, all those things, I'm like, that sucks for that guy if it's a problem, but it's not, it doesn't influence someone in power that I want to criticize. So I have no problem with people tweeting about it like they could tweet about a celebrity, but to me, it's not like a story of importance unless it comes down to introducing Joe Biden to Ukrainian executives and things like that, which is apparently what Hunter Biden did. And as we now know, he was put onto this board of an oil company in Ukraine, getting $50,000 a month for doing nothing, basically introducing those people to his father. So it ended up having connections to the government. And at that time, that story comes out, the laptop comes out, all that shit, and it's covered in the New York Post, and it is banned, like fully banned on Twitter and Facebook. And Twitter says you can't post about it, you can't DM somebody about it. There is no way to share that story leading into the election of Biden versus Trump. And so here are some of Taibbi describing the situation. I'm just going to read some of these. It's a very long thread, but he says, Twitter in its conception was a brilliant tool for enabling mass communication, making a true real-time global conversation possible for the first time. And that's, wow, Chuck, thanks. And that's actually very true. I don't think Occupy would have happened at the size it did without Twitter. Even though Twitter was much smaller then, it played a pivotal role. I don't think a lot of the Arab Spring would have happened without Twitter. No matter how some of those uprisings ended, that's kind of not the point. The point is it allowed people to put forward these messages in a very free way. I don't think
and also I think it's also been used by a tool. Used as a tool by
now it's being used by a tool.
It's one of those moments where your subconscious is like, you just got to say this.
Yeah.
Let's get this out of the way.
Yeah.
It's been used as a tool by mutual aid groups and community organizers to check on what's going on in a live situation, because people post things to Twitter continuously as something is going down. So for instance, in DC, when there were fascist protests or fascist gatherings, then mutual aid folks would watch on Twitter to see what was going on, so that the people who were there, and sometimes it would be me or sometimes it would be somebody else, would be able to get information out and say, hey, heading up 16th Street, heading over on towards Columbia Heights, so people would be able to know, because it's. And then obviously there would be more secretive information shared on things like Signal, but you'd also be able to share this information in real time with people as part of an entire community. Hey, check Twitter if you're going to go out. Make sure that hashtag fashion DC or something like that. And you'd be able in real time to see what was going on in your city. So Twitter has been a powerful tool, not just to create organizing spaces, but for organizing spaces to create safety and security inside of communities.
Yeah, used in a lot of ways. And there's been a lot of positive that come out of it. I know we highlight, I don't mean me, but the world seems to highlight all the awfulness, but there's been a lot of positive that's come out of Twitter. And, I, of course, have used it to get my stuff out as well. Back before I was, whatever level of shadow banned I am now, I actually, going into that 2016 election when Bernie Sanders was being completely railroaded out of the primaries, I got a hashtag trending, and I think it was the top or second most tweeted hashtag for a few hours. And this is during the primaries. This is a key time, and I created the hashtag exit poll gate, as I was showing the exit polls don't match up with the voting, and it was showing how Bernie Sanders was being rigged out of the primary, and that type of thing could go viral. Like, people would talk about that and spread it, and it became a big discussion online. And that, after 2016, completely stopped existing. So, although Matt Taibbi's thread here focuses on the Hunter Biden laptop, we're going to mention that, but we're going to talk a lot about how all of Twitter has suppressed very important things over several years now. Mm-hmm. Okay, so he continues giving people the power to create and share ideas and information instantly without borders. As time progressed, however, the company was slowly forced to add those barriers. Some of the first tools for controlling speech were designed to combat the likes of spam and financial fraudsters. But slowly over time, staff and executives began to use the tools for many more purposes. And outsiders began petitioning the company to manipulate speech as well. First a little, and then more often, and then constantly. By 2020, requests from connected actors to delete tweets were routine. One executive would write to another, more to review from the Biden team. The reply would come handled. And these are the emails he's showing here that show that the Biden team would simply contact Twitter, say, this is the type of stuff we don't want out there. And Twitter would immediately, it's tough to say what they did with it, obviously delete that tweet, but possibly even suspend the user, various forms of censorship. Celebrities and unknowns alike could be removed or reviewed at the behest of a political party. Both parties had access to these tools. For instance, in 2020, requests from both the Trump White House and the Biden campaign were received and honored. However, this system wasn't balanced. It was based on contacts because Twitter was and is overwhelmingly staffed by people of one political orientation. There were more channels, more ways to complain open to the left. And then he says, well, Democrats.
The left, yeah.
But Matt Taibbi knows this because I've heard him discuss it before, but he's instead still using the terminology.
Probably because a lot of people conflate the two, so he's trying to make it easier for people to follow along with his thread. I hope he doesn't actually feel that the Democrats are left.
Right. He's speaking to the way people tend to call this system, but Democrats are not left-wing. In almost any way. I mean, not to mention they're the party of pro-war now, fully pro-war. So have been, but it used to be both of them more. So there's actually a handful of Republicans that are against the war in Ukraine now, which is fucking everything's upside down. But it shows that Democrats are not left. The Republicans may be right, but the Democrats are also right. So you have two parties that stand for the same shit most of the time. And, so saying that, yes, Democrats had more access to suppressing Twitter, but that doesn't mean that the left was allowed to speak freely on Twitter. And I'll mention that again in a moment. I'm about halfway through with this, so bear with me. But so then he gets into the Biden laptop. On October 14th, 2020, the New York Post published Biden's secret emails, an expose based on the contents of Hunter Biden's abandoned laptop. Twitter took extraordinary steps to suppress the story, removing links and posting warnings that it was unsafe. They even blocked its transmission via direct message, a tool hitherto reserved for extreme cases like child pornography. White House spokeswoman Kayleigh McEnany, and again, just to clarify here, she is the worst human being in the world. But in this case, she shouldn't have been censored. She was locked out of her own account for tweeting about the story, prompting a furious letter from Trump campaign staffer Mike Hahn, who seethed, at least pretend to care for the next 20 days. This led public policy executive Carolyn Strom to send a what the fuck email. The laptop story had been removed for violation of the company's hacked materials policy. So basically, they made up a reason to delete all coverage of this. And let's see, he goes, it seems to have largely gone all the way to the top, with the exception of CEO Jack Dorsey, who didn't seem to know this was going on, and the head of legal, Vijaya, you want to pronounce that name? Gata?
I don't know.
But he was the head of it, and you can see the confusion in the following lengthy exchange. He says, I'm trying to understand the policy basis for marking this as unsafe. And then there's a little mention of Ro Khanna, the congressman, contacted Twitter, and despite being a Democrat, said this seems like it's against freedom of speech. So even a Democrat was contacting Twitter to say this seems wrong. So this is one example, and it obviously is the most extreme example because they banned people from even sending it via DM to each other. But this type of thing was and is, although I don't know what Elon Musk has stopped, maybe a lot of it, but is routine for Twitter and for a lot of big tech. And Matt Taibbi is not mentioning it in this, but the and I guess we'll call ourselves the far left, the radical left, because radical is a very positive term, as Eleanor can explain. We are heavily suppressed and shadow banned. And I found that after 2016, my tweets would get a fraction of what they used to gain. And this went for anything that even had terms in it, like Israel, or like calling the or probably the phrase U.S. empire in it. A lot of phrases
help
like
you if you
yeah.
wrote Antifa and anything.
Yeah. So this clearly was not just to benefit Democrats, or not just to benefit, the left, as Matt called them. It's to benefit Democrats, which Democrats find the far left far more threatening or scary than they do right wing.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
Sorry to talk so much.
That's okay. There's a lot there.
I don't know if you have any thoughts on it. Forgive me for going on and on.
No, I mean, I think that was pretty much it. That yeah.
And the hope is that now that Elon Musk, who is, I've done many segments on how he is a not just right wing, but a sociopath who is a billionaire and has gotten that money by exploiting others and will continue to do that. And that's not going to stop. But it is possible that he is actually taking some of the governors, some of the controls that have suppressed left-wing thought, yes, right-wing thought as well, off of some of these Twitter interactions. But who knows?
I guess we'll see. You'll see if Matt Taibbi's Twitter thread is still there in a few days.
Oh, no, Elon Musk has already responded to this, and actually in a positive way. He said things like, Ro Khanna's I don't know. He said something very positive about Ro Khanna for standing up for freedom of speech. And so Elon Musk likes this thread, because this thread is basically saying Twitter sucked before he got there. so he's like, yeah!
Sure, which is like the only person to say that, because everybody else has been pointing out what a fucking mess Twitter is now.
Yeah, and it is a mess in other ways. But I'm only going to spend 1 minute on this, but it's too
Really?
It's too funny. It's too.
Okay.
Can't I please?
If you must.
I must. 1 minute. 1 minute. This is Kanye West on 30 seconds of Kanye West wearing a black mask on Alex Jones' show. No, 11 seconds. And actually getting Alex Jones to nervously laugh and disagree.
Oh my goodness. Just because you don't like one group doesn't mean the other. Look,
I love Jewish people, but I also love Nazis.
Oh man. Well, I have to disagree with that. Oh my god.
Alex Jones is the good guy in that. Do you have any idea how fucking out of your mind you've got to be to make Alex Jones laugh nervously? How fucking out of your mind?
Yeah.
Amazing. All right, moving on. Would you rather do railroad strike or Ron DeSantis next?
Either one's fine.
Okay. Here is Eleanor just did an excellent interview for Project Censored with Mike Preisner on the revelations on Ron DeSantis. And I just wanted to briefly give a review of what Mike uncovered in his interview and what you talked to him about.
Wait, you wanted to, or you're asking me to?
Oh no, I'm asking you to.
You said I briefly wanted to do, and I was like, okay.
Yes, I meant. Sorry, I would like to present to the audience.
Okay.
Via you. It was your interview. So.
And if I can just clarify, people might be wondering why I had no response to what just happened. I find it to be a waste of time, and I find it to be ridiculous to give both piece of shits any extra
Forgive
platforming.
me.
No.
Forgive me. I'm sorry.
That it's your show. If it were my show, I wouldn't have played that. But it's your show. I mean, I guess it's supposed to be both of our show, but whatever. I think there's way more important shit happening in the world than whatever both of those fucksticks say or do. So anyway,
I agree.
We can move on. So Mike Preisner is a badass Army veteran and investigative reporter and producer. And he recently came out. If you're not familiar with his podcast, Eyes Left, I definitely recommend that you check it out. And this is the original space where he interviews a former prisoner of Guantanamo Bay and talks to him about Ron DeSantis, and also talks to a member of the military, Mansour Adayfi. That's the former prisoner of Guantanamo Bay. And so basically, this is about Ron DeSantis. If you don't know that name, then I'm jealous of you because I wish that I remember way back when I did not know this piece of shit's name, and I was a happier person because of it. Ron DeSantis, I call him the efficient fascist. Trump is the inefficient fascist because he doesn't really know what the fuck he's doing. He just wants attention and money, and he doesn't really know what the fuck he's doing.
Yeah.
DeSantis knows what he's doing. And I talked to Mike Preisner about this. I've long felt that Trump was not really at all as scary as this country could get. And I thought that it was very dangerous to think that he was like the pinnacle of the horror show. Not just because he's an idiot, but also because he is so similar in terms of his actual platform to the Democrats. DeSantis is a different beast, though, and beast in like the most twisted and horrific, like, just picture that you could ever conceive of. DeSantis will oftentimes tout his military career, but not so much his time at Guantanamo Bay, where he served as a JAG officer. And JAG officer is basically a lawyer in the military because the military has its own courts, its own court system.
I didn't realize how much JAG officer sounds like Jack officer.
Which coincidence? I don't know.
I mean,
You tell me.
I'd say it's appropriate.
So he was a JAG officer, and basically, as a JAG officer, you have to know the law. You have to know about, for instance, Article 3 of the Geneva Convention, which is about how to deal with prisoners of war and that you're not allowed to torture them. And as a JAG officer, you're not only supposed to know, like, you it's not that like a lot of people know about Article 3 of the Geneva Convention. As a JAG officer, like, you know this to a T,
Right.
and your whole point of existence supposedly is to uphold this. So basically, I'm not going to go into too much detail because I think it's so much more powerful to either listen to Mike or in reality listen to his interview that he did on his podcast, Eyes Left. But basically, Ron DeSantis was at Guantanamo Bay at the height of the torture program at Gitmo. And he was sent there on purpose, as Mike points out. He was sent there because they knew that he was the guy that they needed to ensure that this stayed under wraps. The prisoners at Gitmo were going on a hunger strike. And if this got to the international stage, then it would look really bad for the US, right? And so they sent people like DeSantis, not because they knew that they were actually going to uphold human rights, but because they knew that they would do the opposite. And DeSantis didn't just not uphold the basic human rights of these prisoners. He took pleasure in their torture. And the descriptions by this former prisoner of from Guantanamo is fucking grotesque. The way that he describes how DeSantis worked in that environment is awful. And it's so important that this information gets out there. And I asked Mike about this because I think a lot of us might be like, oh yeah, that's really interesting and important to share these stories. But it's more than that, because what do you do when you get someone who literally takes enjoyment out of torturing people and you give them the most powerful platform in the entire world. It's one thing to put Trump up there. Again, another thing to put Biden or Obama or whatever the fuck. These people are all war criminals. But were they war criminals before they got to the White House? Because DeSantis is. And DeSantis
That's a good point.
enjoys.
That's a great point.
He enjoys being a war criminal. And that's the difference. And that's I think it's really important that this information gets out there and that people and as Mike pointed out, that more journalists make sure that these ghosts haunt him.
I know it's simplistic or reductive, but I've heard that as the definition of the difference between sociopath and psychopath. Both don't give a shit about harming people, hurting people, but psychopaths actually enjoy killing or harming others. Whereas I'd say most of our government is sociopaths. It's not that they necessarily are like, I love bombing a child. It's that they don't give a shit. If it's going to enrich America more or gain power or whatever, then do it. So yeah, I hadn't thought of that he'd be the first, maybe the first, maybe the second war criminal going into the White House. Like on day one, he's already.
And that enjoyed it. Clearly enjoys harming people in the most grotesque way. That.
Yeah.
That should be really fucking scary to everyone.
Another example of someone who got to the highest levels of power with that same pedigree is Gina Haspel, the former head of the CIA, who oversaw torture. Oversaw the torture program in various places, in various black sites around the world, and was known for enjoying it, was known for liking watching people be tortured, essentially all of them innocent people. Guantanamo, there's been zero charges against anyone because they can't get anything to stick because there are no charges.
Well, because, and Mike talks about this too in the interview, and I interviewed him on Project Censored Radio, which you can check out at projectcensored.org. But, and Mike talks about this, and again, Mike is an Army veteran as well as an investigative reporter. And he said that what happened is that the U.S. was just so desperate to get prisoners. Because if you're going to have a war on terror, you have to have terrorists, right? And the U.S. had basically clobbered Al-Qaeda, basically clobbered the Taliban by the end of 2001. But that's no fun. We can't have a 3-month war. That's boring. So what do? You keep trying to find these terrorists. So they basically they went to local warlords and they were like, hey, send us terrorists. And the warlords were like, okay, you're going to give us money if we hand over some random teenager to you?
Right.
Sure.
Here's
so they
my
would
enemy.
Literally, they would go to, they'd do sweeps. They'd pick up hey, that family fucking was rude to me. I'm going to tell them that their 17-year-old is a terrorist. And it's not like the U.S. is going to check up on any of this. It was sure, I'll just take these fucking kids. And a lot of them were kids when they were first taken to Gitmo. And it's none of these people did anything that can be proven. And so they're just sitting there to rot. And that's exactly what the U.S. wanted. They just wanted somebody to throw in a cage to say, look, we have terrorists. This is why we have to continue the war on terror. This is exactly what DeSantis has said. Because when Obama was talking, the only time that he's talked about being at Gitmo was when Obama was talking about closing Gitmo, which he fucking promised to do, which he didn't do. DeSantis came out of fucking the woodwork to say, we can't close Gitmo. There are monsters there. And I know because I've been there. And I'm like, yeah, there were monsters.
There were monsters there.
You're damn right.
He's one of them. Yeah.
But so, yeah, I mean, the people at Gitmo, yeah.
So everybody check out that interview on Project Censored. All right, we are moving on to another topic. Thank you so much, everybody who's here, everyone who's leaving comments. Comments always help. That not just do we enjoy reading them, but it also helps with the algorithm gods that lord over us. All right, let's get into what has happened with the possible rail strike that it seems is unlikely now.
Don't say that.
Well, they just signed the bill.
Well, yes.
Go ahead.
But how can you make it? You can't actually make it illegal to strike.
Right.
Because you could just do it anyway.
Right.
And I'd also like to point out that almost every strike in the history of the United States that we think about has been illegal. Like the mining strikes, garment workers. Like these strikes were illegal at the time, and they fucking did them because they had no other choice. And I think the point here is that this is not over, because how long can these people live without an equality of life? And if you make it illegal to strike, okay, well then I'll end up in jail as opposed to potentially dying on the job because I haven't slept in 5 days.
Right. I don't. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Many strikes are either illegal or at least against maybe even what the union was going to agree to. I mean, withholding your labor, to get it down to its basic level, withholding your labor is one of the things that workers always have the ability to do. Fucking always. So the idea that it's now illegal to strike is, bullshit. But I guess it makes it. And yeah, I wanted to bring up the FAA strike back during Reagan's days and go into a little bit of that history, if you are okay with bearing with me for that, for the little history of the FAA. But
yeah, absolutely. I think that's an important comparison.
But we'll see. I just want to read a little bit of this because this is how CNBC is phrasing it. So this is obviously the mainstream view of things. President Biden signed a bill into law making a rail strike illegal, preventing workers from walking off the job weeks before the holiday season. So they say, end of story, that prevents them from walking off the job. After his administration aided in negotiations for months, the sides reached a tentative agreement in September.
Aided in negotiations? I would not say that.
Oh, they mean that he gave aids to the negotiations.
That sounds more like it.
Talks ultimately stalled and rail workers threatened a strike. Biden then asked Congress to intervene, and the Senate, by the way, most of the squad voted for this as well. So the so-called left wing of the Democratic Party is not left wing. And the Senate passed a bill Thursday making a strike illegal. The initial agreement brokered by Biden was Biden administration. Yeah, let's be honest. Biden's not doing any of this. It's the Biden administration.
Biden doesn't even know what a railroad is.
It's the 40-year-olds that stand around Biden and tell him what to say. Was accepted by all but 4 rail unions. However, those are the ones with the majority of the rail workers. So a strike by rail workers so close to the holiday season and in a period of high inflation could potentially raise, meaning destroy, the economy, is the argument. Well, here's an idea. If you don't want the economy destroyed by a strike, then give the workers what they fucking want.
Which is really not that much, like, for real. Also, sorry, can I butt in?
Yes, I just wanted to, because you said it's not that much. I just want to tell people what it was. The initial agreement brokered by the White House would give rail workers a 24% pay increase over 5 years. Corporations love to do the over 5 years thing because they can often change it later. So they're like, oh, no, we'll get there. From 2020 to 2024, immediate payouts averaging $11,000 upon ratification. Under the agreement, workers would receive 1 extra paid day off and the promise that they could attend medical appointments without penalty. I love that that was even a thing they needed to fight for. Like, you should be able to attend medical appointments without penalty to begin with. Workers, though, balked at the lack of paid sick leave because under the agreement, they would have to use unpaid time off for medical appointments. All right. Sorry. Just wanted to.
Well, and not only that, but so I had an interview with a member of RWU, which is the Railroad Workers United Coalition. And he went into this in much more detail. I'm not going to go into all of this, but that's also at projectcensor.org. If you want to check that out, you just click on radio show and it's a few
sheesh, we
episodes.
get it. Project Censor's good. All right, fine.
So basically, and let's put this into comparison with the people who just told the rail workers to go fuck themselves with a rail spike. The people who work at Congress.
Fuck themselves with a rail spike? Is that what you said?
Yes. Have no limit on sick days or time off. They make roughly $174,000 a year. paid for by taxpayers, and work on average 138 days a year. 138 days a year.
138.
That's nice, isn't it?
They never work a full month.
In comparison, over the past 6 years, major railroads have cut nearly 1/3 of their workforce, which has forced rail workers to work 12-hour days. And many workers are on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week because of this cut. And the rail industry is the most profitable industry in the country with a 50% profit margin. So at the same time
Wow.
that their profits have been fucking like just magnanimous, they are cutting their workforces and people have died on the job.
Enormous.
What did I say?
Sorry, it's okay.
No, what did I say?
Magnanimous. That means generous.
God damn it. I mean, they are generous.
Yeah, they're very nice. Yeah.
No,
Okay.
the size is generous. It's a generous size of profit.
Yes, that.
I'm gonna work on this. I don't know why I keep saying that.
No, I totally agree with you. The word magnanimous sounds like it's very large. It just does. Because it
But,
sounds
like, I know-
it sounds like
Like I know what it means, but
It's
I
a-
feel like I just keep.
it
It's
sounds
not
like
the first time that I've done that.
it sounds like the combination of like maximum and enormous. Magnanimous.
Well, let's put a pin in that. I. So on top of this, rail workers say like they often have to request time off months in advance. But how can you request time off if you don't know when you're going to get sick? Because who the fuck knows when they're going to get sick? Who the fuck knows when their kid is going to get sick, or their partner, or their fucking mom, or their like whatever? You can't plan an emergency. That's not an emergency.
Right.
Then that's a fucking trip. And so this is the situation, and this is why like the reason that Congress and Biden are so fucking scared is that a rail strike would cost the US economy $2 billion a day. And is that a lot of money? Would that hurt the US economy? Absolutely. But the US economy exists to hurt workers.
Right.
So really, you're not like the people who are mad at rail workers for potentially going on strike. You're not mad at workers. You're mad at the concept of an economy that can only exist by literally working people to death. And I'm not kidding, because there are people who have died of heart attacks, died of exposure, because people have to work in like negative temperatures. They also have to work in 100-degree temperatures without access to shelter or water. Like, people are dying on the job, and still it's not good enough to give them a few sick days. And honestly, that would have been enough to just that much of a release valve would have given them that space, but they couldn't even do that. So I think there are a lot of people that I'm hearing in the, you know, in kind of the rail workers united comments that I'm privy to, which are not, of course, all of them, because I'm not a rail worker. But they're saying, fuck these people. Fuck these assholes. We asked for the bare minimum just to fucking survive. And they were like, can't do it. Can't do it. Sorry, won't do it. Can do it. Won't do it. Go
Yeah.
fuck yourself.
And now they've gotten the U.S. government to step in, still a Democratic Senate, House, and presidency to step in and fuck over the workers.
Mhm.
And they were all ready to do that. But you also started to get at your opening salvo there, where you said that the whole economy is built on exploiting workers. And, you know, I like to talk about the multiple layers of reality. You have the surface layer, which is what I was just reading from CNBC. And you're getting down to some of the deeper layers. And then, you know, there's a deeper layer of like, you have the ruling class, which does not work nearly as hard as they expect the working class to work. There is no way that I don't give a fuck when Jeff Bezos wakes up in the morning. He's not working as hard as a fucking rail worker. I can tell you that right now. And they
Also, I don't know the last time a rail worker went to space.
there was one time, but it was explosion went haywire. And anyway, but But on top of that, they're, the ruling class makes 100 times what an average rail worker makes, or whatever. I'm making up numbers, but it's probably far more than 100 times what I see, than compared to what a CEO makes. And that exploitation is standard in the American capitalist system. And then you go down to even a layer below that, and you get into the fact that why the fuck do we have an economy? And I'm sorry, sometimes I repeat this on live streams, but an economy set up so that people devote a third of their lives or more to a job they hate. Like, that is not how the world needs to work. In fact, it didn't work that way until a couple hundred years ago. And now we just say, oh, that's just the norm. You wake up, you go and do a job you fucking despise, and then you come home and you try and rent back your weekends from corporate America. You try and work so hard 5 days a week that you get 2 days to actually live the life you want. It's insanity. And most of these layers of reality you're not going to get from any of your mainstream media, many independent outlets. What's going on over here? What just happened?
I was going to type in this website because somebody was asking about donations. And instead of railroad worker, I typed railroad.
Railroad? Because
I typed it the way it's...
So, for those of you who didn't see the last live stream, Eleanor has a thing of saying railroad workers. Is it railroad?
No, it's railroad.
Railroad. Yes.
Railroad workers.
Okay, that was railroad workers. That didn't even have a D involved. Railroad workers.
Railroad worker.
And it gets worse every
It's
time.
fucking dumb.
It
Why
gets-
would you put 2 R's and a W next to each other? That's a bullshit move.
It gets worse
you,
every
English.
time. So you typed into your
I typed in
search
railroad.
bar.
Okay. Anyway,
Railroad.
I'm sorry.
Railroad workers.
I did want to make a point here. So, pretty much any strike that you've heard of since before, not all of them, but before FDR were illegal, right? And so people would spend time in jail. They would, they'd have wages taken. They'd be beaten by scabs and police and all that other shit. And they did it anyway because, and I'm going to quote somebody that I met in West Virginia who talked about this, because the fear of change, it becomes less scary than the fear of things staying the same.
Mm.
And I think when you get to that point, fuck you. Okay, put me in jail. Maybe I'll sleep. And I think that's where we're at right now. And so I obviously can't tell and I wouldn't, these rail workers how they should act or what to do, but I would say this, first of all, there are people who have your back. Folks are asking about donations, and I'm gonna tell folks how they can support. But also, this is you have this power, and this is just evidence of that. The fact that they're telling you it's illegal means that they're fucking terrified of you. And if you went on strike anyway, what are they gonna do? Send Biden to work the railroads? No, they don't know how to fucking do it. And I know you're gonna bring up the FAA. Unlike with air traffic control, there's nobody else they can get to do it. This is specialized fucking work that takes a long time to train for. And so they have nothing, they can't do anything. So either way, shit gets stalled. And then the ball is very much in their court. Are you going to keep these people in jail? Or are you going to give them the measly basic human rights that they're asking for and let them get back to work? Because if you take the time to train new people, that's months of time that your economy is shit. So really, you call their bluff. Call their fucking bluff.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I would say. And I'm not a real worker, so I'm not trying to say that I am in a place to.
Yeah.
But that's what I would say.
It's all great points. You wanted to give a website?
Yes. It's not a lot of W's. So, you can donate at www.railroadworkersunited.
You know what's crazy is earlier
.org.
you nailed it when you first started talking.
Did you notice the pregnant pause? I go railroad workers.
There was
If I put the in there,
if you
like
put the
a wick,
yeah.
wick, like a
there
like a
was there
remix.
was a pregnant pause, I'd say, with triplets.
You don't have to rub it in. I'm doing the best I can.
All right, so I want to get to this real quick. So I'll try and because I don't want to waste all our time on this. But so
It's not wasted, Lee.
it's true. It's an important history, and so yes, it's covered by NPR National Petroleum Radio, but I think it's an accurate history. But it's talking about when President Reagan fired the air traffic controllers, and many people point to this as the moment that the ruling class control over workers shifted into a place where unions were crushed and workers felt they had very little, no power. It was 1981. The FAA, the Flight Controllers Union, representing those who man America's air traffic control facilities, called a strike. The union represented 13,000 people. The Professional Air Traffic Controllers Association was protesting what they considered to be unfair wages, long work hours. They walked off the job. 2 days later, Reagan fired more than 11,000 of those who hadn't crossed the picket line, and that dealt a serious blow to the American labor movement. Now, these folks, what was kind of groundbreaking in this is that they have a specialized job. You can't just go and grab somebody standing around at a Walmart and say, hey, come land the planes. So with a specialized job and a job that takes a real education, a lot of education, they thought, understandably, that they could go on strike, demand what they wanted, and it'd be given to them because they had that leverage. They are impressive workers who work hard and know their shit. But Reagan proved to the business community, the business world, that that's not always true. And here's how they did it. Let's see. The government had a card up its sleeves. The plan was if they could just find enough qualified people out in the world to cross picket lines and then climb up into those air traffic control towers, that maybe the planes could keep flying, or at least enough planes to show the strikers that they're not so irreplaceable after all. So they stole them from military controllers. They were put students, air traffic control students, on accelerated tracks. Yeah, that sounds real safe. They tried to offer retired air traffic controllers a lot of money to come back for a few weeks. And basically it worked. Nearly half of all scheduled flights on the first day landed, and by day two, 75%. And so Reagan went ahead and fired all of those air traffic controllers. And this is an interesting point that I think is really important. A seemingly small thing happened that made a huge difference in U.S. labor history. On that day, when they were the second day of the strike, the skies were blue. That's the thing. In much of the country, little clouds, great visibility, ideal if you're, say, a replacement air traffic controller or a student who has no idea what you're fucking doing, landing a bunch of planes. You're hoping for clear skies. And there was clear sky. God, the God I don't believe in, was smiling down on the scabs.
God's a scab.
Anyway, so Reagan did that. Strikers were, after that moment, strikers were no longer the sympathetic ones. They were propagandized as selfish lawbreakers screwing over regular Americans. And by 1982, this became a common lecture in business classes as to how to deal with workers. And this is the last part. Suddenly around America, strike breaking became the thing to do. Striking copper miners in Arizona, fired. Striking paper workers in Maine, fired. Meat packers, bus drivers. So many strikes in the 80s were broken to the point where unions realized the employers almost wanted them to strike so they could fire them and replace them with non-union workers. And if you realize that your boss wants you to strike so that they can fire you and rehire someone else, that is going to make you less likely to strike, the main piece of leverage that unions have. So this was a major shift in American worker history.
Right. But again, what are they going to do?
Yeah, no, but there are too many rail workers, and it's $2 billion a day. So it's like, even if they got a few of the trains back on the lines while these people
It's not good
strike,
enough.
it's not gonna be enough.
And as opposed to how it is with air traffic, most air traffic is commercial. It's you going to see your niece, or whatever the fuck, this guy doing a business deal in fucking Poughkeepsie. Like, most of it is not essential to the economy, whereas rail is predominantly not passenger anymore. And a lot of it is shit that the economy needs to run. And a lot of it is dangerous materials, whether that be, coal, or whether that be oil or other hazardous materials that you have to be really fucking careful with when transporting. And these rail workers know that. They're trained for that. So you can't just ask Joe Schmo, hey, can you move this liquid hydrogen to fucking, like, no, you can't. So again, like, call their fucking bluff.
Yeah. And, America, part of the reason America is on the more accelerated path in the death spiral of capitalism is because workers have lost so much of their power. And right now, although there's a recession, but it's already here, but it's getting far worse, on the horizon, workers have more power at the moment than they've had in a long time. So, it's time to change things back. It's time to fight back. And, it seems these rail workers are doing it to some degree. Even if they don't go on strike, they have shown that they have power. But yeah. All right, folks, we have more stories coming up over at rumble.com/Lee Camp. We've got at least one more coming your way. So please join us, rumble.com/Lee Camp. We gave you a little extra today on the other platforms, but it's free at rumble.com/Lee Camp. And whether you join us over there or not, I hope you'll go to leecamp.net and become a member there. But all right, we will see you right now at rumble.com/Lee Camp. That's where the rest of this live stream will continue for free. And if you're watching there, nothing changes. We just keep